With great anticipation, I bring you the Vorsprung Tellum. So basically you're gonna get the absolute raw edit of what I think about this shock. It is a used shock. So if that bothers you, don't watch the video. So basically Otter MTB Tech, me, this channel, all this stuff is heavily influenced from Steve at Vorsprung. Thank you for making those Tech Tuesday videos, because if I'm gonna watch YouTube, it's gonna be somewhat educational. Now that being said, I did get in a big argument with Steve at Vorsprung about his baby girl here, the shock. Basically, I reached out to them during my coil shock ranking video and I said, bladders are better. And he was like, you're a fucking idiot. No, they're not. And I'm like, yes, they are. So the most important thing was the damper, then the bladder, a couple other variables. So don't expect no sellout content. So let's get this thing mounted on the bike. So here's the Tellum in all its raw glory. I didn't really know what to expect. I did look at pictures of this shock and it looks like an amalgamation of every single shock on the market. Like Steve took all the best traits of every single shock and then just built version 1 Tellum. So here's the box. It comes in a box that looks like any other box out there. So you have to understand this is a very premium product that comes custom valved for your body weight and your bike. And there is a huge resource, I think they call it the tuning hub. If you do buy it from them, and you can do rapid revalves and change the preload on the shim stacks on the head of the shock. Lucky for me, the guy who had this shock before me is roughly the same body weight and not too far out when it comes to progression numbers. So the internal valve stack on the main piston should be absolutely adequate. So it comes with this massive resource when you do buy the shock, I guess, because he included all this stuff. It looks like they dyno every single shock before it ships out, which is pretty cool. It's definitely a hand-built shock in Canada, but the parts may be made in Taiwan. I'm not 100% on that. I know the Tellum comes with spherical style bearings, so these are push spherical bearings, and they're an absolute nightmare if you're trying to cobble this together on your mountain bike for the used market. But fortunately, Steve did a little bit of a genius move when it comes to his spherical bearings. So they're oversized eyelets, but then you put a standard bushing straight on through there. The high and low speed compression, 6 and 3 millimeter Allen key, identical to Fox. Where it does vary from most shocks is all the rebound is handled in the head of the shock. So this is a push and pull style rebounds. We have no needle coming up through the stanchion controlling the low speed orifice. Round of applause to Vorsprung for adding hydraulic bottom out. It has like 18 clicks of hydraulic bottom out, meaning you could just ride this on just about any bike on the market. So I do suspect the previous owner was not having a very good time with this shock. With 4 clicks of high speed compression and 0 low speed, I don't think this was a very good setup. I think the valving may be a little bit slow for a 200-pound rider, but that's to be decided. He did sell it to me for pretty cheap, so let's move on. The climb lever is best in class. So basically, depending on where your leg or your shock is, you can knock the climb lever into the lock position and it's super annoying. This one's 100% foolproof. Pulling out the $10,000 dyno, it's sub 40 pounds, so it's a true twin tube shock and it's gonna be a super plush ride. So I know from watching Steve's Tech Tuesday video, he actually does mechanic work. So everything on this shock is engineered in the fashion to be friendly to mechanics. So mad respect for that. So basically reinventing the wheel when it comes to bushings, eyelets, spherical bearings on the lower side. So we have oversized shock eyelets and then the spherical rubber piece presses inside and then you use a standard bushing. Very, very good touch. So I've rode every single shock mounting hardware in the world, and honestly, doesn't give you any ride difference, but maybe it'll give you a durability enhancement. Now the Tellum is an absolutely massive shock, so it's always a good idea to do a trial run inside of your bike without the spring to make sure everything clears, fits, and doesn't rub. So I did test fit a couple Fox bushings inside of this shock to make sure everything was going to go smooth and I didn't have to order extra parts. And then I went over to Jensen USA and found the right Fox bushing, ordered it up, paid a little extra shipping, and it showed up super quick, and then let's carry on. The Tellum has a lot going on. Besides its 10mm steel stanchion that's almost identical to Cane Creek Kitsuma and Olin's coil shocks. We have a massive bump stop, also hydraulic bottom out, a beefy looking eyelet, and a couple details you may not see. So we have a crossed hatch stanchion, which I've only ever seen on the EXT stanchions. Bravo for doing a steel stanchion. So Vorsprung does have to protect their reputation, and they're like, don't put it on a Specialized bike, but this is a very sturdy shock. And I would confidently put this on the Levo. So I'm rocking the full maple syrup setup. We got the Vorsprung Tellum and the Rocky Mountain Altitude. So in my humble opinion, Canadians usually mess something up, and next step, you'll see why. It is very important to have some kind of locking mechanism to make sure the spring does not come loose. So Steve did not overlook this. There's actually a grub screw on the top here, very similar to the EXT style. Unfortunately, they made the grub screw too small, but I'm a mechanic, so I got a cell phone repair kit, so you're gonna need a super tiny screwdriver to tighten this up. Right before mounting the Tellum up fully on my bike, I did notice the spring dex is completely worn through. So the previous owner was truly struggling with this shock and had a terrible setup. So what you need to know, since you're watching my videos, this shock has a high internal floating piston gas charge. To make it more reliable, so what that means is you need to go light on the spring pressure. £550, full fast rebound, wide open compression. Quick test run at the test track with the full fast rebound. Basically, I can figure this out pretty good. So what it feels like is a RockShox Vivid crossed with a Cane Creek Kitsuma plushness. The valve stacks in order in this are almost perfect for my body weight with 37% progression. Rocky Mountain progression right here. So I'm guessing the Trek rail this came off of has a similar progression rate. Excellent job on the valve stacking. Rebound's full fast, so it is definitely on the slower side with the rebound. So we're just gonna knock a few clicks down. 1, 2, 3 from fully fast. So we want a combination of compression and hydraulic bottom out stopping this thing, but this also has a progressive spring. So 1, 2, we'll just go 2 clicks hydraulic bottom out, 5 clicks to high speed, 5 clicks to low speed, and let's do the test track. Most people will tell you, air shocks, I ride them because they're more supportive. So if you buy a bougie high-end coil shock, they're just as supportive as any air shock. So this shock having a combination of a good valve stack, hydraulic bottom out, it's a truly legendary shock. By keeping the rebound in the faster setting, it does retain some of its playfulness. Absolutely legendary run, first try. So excellent touch from Vorsprung, giving it 18 clicks of hydraulic bottom out. So basically the rebound, the compression damping, I have totally dialed. 5 clicks, almost fully fast rebound, but we're gonna go 1, 2. It had 2 clicks of hydraulic bottom out, but I was definitely into the bump stop on that jump, in the last 6-foot jump. So it was at 2, so we're gonna give it 5. So 5 clicks of hydraulic bottom out. So climbing back up to the test track. This feels like a 2008 Specialized bike climbing. It's got the most bob I've ever seen out of modern coil shock. What that means is we're just more downhill oriented focus. But this has a pretty wicked little climb lever. So I'm gonna say that's the best in-class climb lever as far as design. Like, that is not going to accidentally get turned like I so oftenly do. Are you ready for the dirt on the Vorsprung Tellum? So once we step into that like $800 and above category of suspension, everything becomes interpretation. So in my humble opinion, the Tellum lacks the sophisticated feel of shocks like the Push 11.6 and the EXT E-Storia, but that is opinion. So it is one of two things creating that dull sensation that kind of reminds me of RockShox. Number one, the main piston is flowing too much oil. It's a free-flowing shock, similar to the formula if you go to my last video, or it's similar to the Cane Creek Kitsuma because we're creating the rebound curve out of the head of the shock. So when we create rebound out of the head here, it's called push and pull rebound. And some really knowledgeable tuners out there are not a huge fan of this style of rebound. But overall, this has the best clickers in the entire industry. There's no reason for me to revalve this, turn the preload adjuster here, because they did such an amazing job. I just want to see Steve make version 2 on the main piston to give it the more EXT style of feel. But if you click this video here, go all into ranking coil shocks. And if you want to see me go round 2 on the Tellum, leave a comment. Otherwise, I'm getting rid of it.